not your father's talk show. And he has the DNA test to prove he's not your father either. The Walt Bonetti radio program on WGSO 990 AM.
Hey, welcome back. Early voting begins tomorrow, and we are having a conversation with Secretary of State candidate A.G. Crowe, and your calls are welcome, 504-556-9696. Richard and Kenner. How you doing, Richard? Happy Monday.
Hey, good morning, Walt. How you doing? Hey, good morning, Senator Crowe. I've got a
good morning
question and a comment about the new voting machines we're looking at, and the statement you made, Senator, that perhaps not every model we've looked at, but that some of them will provide a written printout for verification. But I've got a problem with that. And I've been an election commissioner for 20 years, and for the last 10 of that, I've been a commissioner in charge. And I've also been involved in 3 election challenges, going back to the Woody Jenkins, Mary Landrieu challenge, and most recently the challenge that got us a new election on abolishing the Crescent City connection tolls. But a printout that can use election officials just to verify the accuracy of the electronic printout is fine. But there's a problem with actually giving the printout to the voter, because that opens the door to voter fraud and to the very type voter fraud that we're trying to prevent by not letting voters take other adults into the voting booth with them. It would work this way. If you can walk out of the voting booth with proof of how you voted, that makes it much too easy for people to pay you for voting.
Thanks for the call, Richard.
Okay, sure.
AG, your comment?
Richard, first off, thank you for your service. It's a very thankless job, and we definitely need you there, and keep on doing that great work for us. The simple answer is this, and straightforward answer. I've seen all 3 of the vendors that presented proposals, and the new technology now, of course, pretty much across the board, provides for a paper backup, not to be given to the voter, but to be kept internally. It goes into an actual lock box underneath the machine in 2 of the cases that I saw. So the good news is that, and I agree with you, Richard, that we should not be handing out receipts to people to give out to others. I think that's a bad precedent. It will open up voter fraud. But the good news is that all 3 of the vendors had paper backups internally and not to be distributed to the public.
Before the break, AG, you were talking about the franking rules and the fact that I was shocked when I read that Interim Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin sent out 47,000 letters to senior citizens reminding them to vote, and at a cost to taxpayers of almost $24,000. I know $24,000 doesn't seem like a whole lot of money, but it is our money, and it's still $24,000. How could he get away with doing something like that as the interim Secretary of State?
Well, first off, to my knowledge, and I've heard, it's never been done before. So it's not illegal, and it's certainly, his comeback was, well, that's part of my job. Well, certainly it is, but is it the spirit of the intention of what you're trying to do? I mean, we go out there every day on the campaign trail talking about the Russians, then we this, the Russians are doing that. When we have our own acting Secretary of State that's trying to influence the election by using tactics such as this is just not right. And I would never do that. And I don't think there are other candidates. I think there are other candidates in this race that wouldn't do that as well. So one of the things that we want to look at doing, whether it's policy or by legislation, is making sure that nobody has a hand up and that nobody can actually take advantage of senior citizens and other folks that are out there looking to run. And by the way, I visited 60 of the 64 parishes, going over 13,000 miles over the past 10 weeks, and we've picked up support everywhere. And as I've talked to registers of voters off the record, they don't want to have their names mentioned, and for obvious reasons, they were shocked that happened. They were also shocked that the early voting ballots went out way earlier than ever before. And they seem to believe that it was because that's when none of the other candidates were known to the voters. Nobody had started their campaigns yet, and only one person's name would have been out there, and that would be the name that is an acting secretary.
That's incredibly disappointing. I mean, I get that people want to win. I mean, I ran for elected office twice. I wanted to win. but still you have to do things the right way, and you have to have integrity, especially in statewide office. You need to have integrity.
How is it that we can go out there and preach every day? We've got to have integrity. We got to protect our voting. We got to make sure that people understand and have good, honest, and fair elections when the leader of the whole department is taking advantage, not breaking the law, but certainly taking advantage of the spirit of the law. So I just think that's unconscionable.
Yeah, we've talked about it here with other elected officials. Just because something isn't illegal, that doesn't make it right. And if you're pushing the ethics laws and the ethical envelope, I mean, where does it end?
Right, exactly. There are other issues out there as well, and I think, it was yesterday or maybe Friday that we sent out a media alert, and we're losing sight of what one of the primary responsibilities are with all the talk about elections, which is certainly important. But the fact is, I actually co-authored the bill to reduce costs to taxpayers to put elections inside of the Secretary of State's department. But we're losing sight. We're losing sight of what the primary responsibility is of this department, and that's records management, retention, and oversight and accountability. The Secretary of State's office is responsible for making sure that every public record is protected, that no public record is ever destroyed without the written permission of the Secretary of State's office. And we've uncovered a situation that we put out in the news. Hopefully it will get out of the news this week. That gives me concern. I've actually recently been shown disturbing information from a citizen activist that's given me reason to believe that possible evidence of suspected child sex abuse may have been destroyed. Evidence may have been destroyed by the Louisiana Department of Health without LDH having received permission from the Secretary of State's office to legally destroy and dispose of those records. And so what I'm saying to you is that this is a major story. This is a major issue. This is all part of what, and I'm not, saying that the working people inside of the Department of the Secretary of State is responsible so much as the leadership. I do not believe that the leadership has a good handle on making sure that no public records are destroyed without the written legal process. There's a thing called an SSARC 930 permission to destroy form. And we're asking the Attorney General, we're asking the legislative auditor, and we're asking the acting secretary to produce those 930 permission to destroy forms in an official letter that went out this past Friday.
We appreciate your time, AG. Tell people in the last 15 seconds how people can get in touch with you and follow you and what your website is.
Well, sure. Thank you again for allowing me to be on the show here this morning. agcrowe.com is my website, and from there you can find out what the story is all about, the records being destroyed, and also it's serving the public is a privilege, and I'm eager to bring my fiscal conservative management style to this office.
We're going to take a quick break for the news, and we will continue on the Walt Bonetti radio program.